This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and for the first time in a while, I am delighted to be joined by former heavyweight, British heavyweight David Price over Zoom. David, firstly, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good, Andy. I'm all good. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to catch up again. As we said last time we spoke, I always wanted to kind of, continue to do these interviews with you. You've achieved a lot in your career, and there's a lot going on in boxing, which I'm sure people would love to hear your opinion on. But before we do touch on that, how are things going for yourself? Life in retirement since we last caught up. How are things going? How are you finding it?
Yeah, good, good. Just have to keep marching on. The world keeps spinning on it, so you just got to keep moving on. So I'm doing my own business as it stands. So that's keeping me busy, keeping me really busy. I haven't even had time to think that much about boxing, to be honest, or whether I'm missing it or not. I do have my moments where I miss that life of being a professional fighter, because you wonder what you've done with your time when you was just going to the gym twice a day. Because now I'm just my feet aren't touching the floor, but it's good. It's because I did say when I retired, there's plenty of time. Did a long time retired, so you need to have something to get up out of bed for every morning. So unfortunate, really, that I'm in a good place.
I mean, David, we obviously had a brief chat over the phone before doing this interview, and I said it's great to know how busy you've been able to keep yourself and preoccupied away from the sport since you announced your retirement. Has it surprised you that you've been able to keep yourself so busy?
No, because to be honest, I was already in this situation when I decided to retire, and it was that what helped me make the decision, because I knew what I was going into. It made it easier for me to decide, because I had something that was happening, and I the weren't just put on me that I had to retire, and then it was like, oh shit, what do we do now? I was already doing what I'm doing, so that helped. And for a year, that was like for nearly a year before I decided. So it was like a bit of a transition more than anything. Well, no surprise really.
No itches.
Something, every now and then I have me moments, just where I feel like even just getting in the gym and maybe even having a spar or something like that. That does cross my mind, but ultimately, you know yourself that it's not really there anymore. The desire, and physically, it'd take me. It's been 2.5 years since I was in a training camp. It'd take me. I'd have to have a training camp to have a training camp. So I just keep myself fit. A bit of running, bit of weights. I did it a punch bag in January one morning. I'm not doing that again. I can't. I've done enough of that. I don't really want to be doing that much more anymore. But then every now and then, I think I do feel like hitting a pad. I might get in and do some pads or something soon, just to massage the ego and remind myself how hard I can or used to be able to it.
I'm sure you can still see it just as hard, David. I mean, I wouldn't fancy being on the end of one of your right hands, but away from that, how much of your eye do you keep on the boxing world in general? Do you still keep up to date with it, or is it just in passing? If maybe you're scrolling on social media, how much do you keep an eye on things?
Social media, I keep an eye on things, and every day I'm on there. I've always gone on the news now boxing page, so all the boxing websites, all the headlines pop up. So I'm always keeping up to date. But I just read headlines. I don't go deep into things. And I was on YouTube the other weekend. Things were on YouTube that when I was boxing, especially earlier in my career, I'd have been all over. Like inside training camp, videos, things like that. But now I'm like, I feel like I've seen that many. I've seen them all. It's not going to show me anything new that I don't know about the training camp, so I can't really get excited about that. But this type of thing happened to me with football when I stopped going the match as much when I took the boxing a lot more seriously, and the boxing become my focus. But now my focus is elsewhere, so I can't kind of give the same love or can't feel the same passion towards watching it. But it will come back. because it's in me. It's been that long. It's going to come back. It's just now while I'm busy elsewhere. I'll always watch big fights, and I'll always watch fights where I know the person who's fighting. But I'll be honest, that when there are big shows on, especially big heavyweight fights, I do get a little bit. It does get me a little bit down and like a little bit nostalgic, and it was me a couple of years ago, and I can't wait for all my generation to retire. You don't have to watch them anymore, and it's just a new generation still coming through. So there's no comparison and no there's just no comparing. They're still going, they're doing this, and now I'm not. So yeah, when they're all finished, I'll be able to really put me slippers on and
David, do you think when this era event, so when like Tyson retires or AJ, and you look at for guys over in the States, maybe the Wilders, the Ruizis, who are all kind of bunched together, and Usyk, of course, when they all step aside, then do you think you'll stop paying as much attention to the sport?
Possibly, yeah. Well, because I've still got a vested interest in it, because I was either talked about fighting these fighters. I was in the Olympic Games with the same fighters. I did fight these fighters, and so I've got a real connection there on a level of some sort. But the younger ones coming through, unless I got involved with them, coaching or getting to know them as a fighter and whatever else, helping them on some level, there's never going to be quite the same interest there for me, because I was a fighter first and foremost, and a boxing fan secondary. So the fan will still be there, but yeah, it may wane a little bit, but it might not. I might just get the ball back. I would love. I mean, we're going off on a tangent, but here I am. I would eventually like to train fighters, maybe not professionals, but at least amateurs. I don't know what boxing can do for an individual, and if I can pass my knowledge on to someone and see them benefit from it, like myself as and other people I know as, then that would give me a real sense of satisfaction. Like, so that is something that I will do when I get the time.
No, it's good to hear. You obviously still do want to stay involved to some capacity, David. But away from that, and unfortunately going over, this era of the heavyweights in the division, obviously we've got some big fights on the horizon. One which is only a matter of a couple of weeks away now, Tyson Fury and Dillian Whyte. It's had kind of a mixed reaction almost over social media because of Dillian's silence. It's a fight which everybody in the UK is very much looking forward to, but Dillian's silence has been a kind of a lot of ongoing legal disputes, shall we say, between the teams. What have you made of it all, looking in from afar?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Dillian's got his own reasons in his head for doing it, but everyone's different. It's just that I just think it's a shame that he's waited so long and been through what he's been through to get in this position that he's not capitalising on the event and the situation, because he might never find himself in this situation again, where it's an all British fight, where unified world heavyweight title at Wembley. You'd want to drink every bit of it in, and enjoy the experience, and then obviously the pot of gold is at the end of it, and going to come to win the fight. That's without question. But I think you should consider some of the package as it all comes together, the build up, the press conferences, the social media, the back and forth, and everything else. Because he has got it in him to do. We've seen him do it with other fighters, but that brings up the question whether it's because who's going to win a build up or an argument with Tyson Fury. It's easier said than done, isn't it? The man stands mostly on legs when it comes to verbals. So Dillian's way of dealing with it might be to frustrate Tyson Fury and keep quiet. Who knows? He might just bounce out of the shell right at the end when Fury is expecting it the day before the fight, and maybe that Fury that way. But yeah, it's all mind games, but it's look, it's a talking point one way or another. Whether people like it or not, we are talking about it, so it is getting some attention in its own way.
You just said it's all mind games. Do you believe that's all it is? Without going too much into it, do you think there are genuine concerns for Dillian on a legal front, or is he just trying to get underneath the skin of Tyson in a way which nobody's really tried to in this manner before? I know Deontay Wilder stayed quiet in the build up to the third fight between him and Tyson, but do you see that's what Dillian's trying to do, just try and kind of get under his skin by not engaging with him?
I hope so. I hope it isn't something more serious going on behind the scenes with legal shit or whatever, because that'll be a massive distraction to the training camp. Not knowing whether the fight is actually going to go ahead. So I hope it is. But I think either way, he's just going to stay focused. He's always fighting for that performance. I think he will. And yeah, I do think. I mean, obviously, you've said there the old day Wilder. Fury-Whyte might want to expend the energy which is required to go back and forth verbally on social media in press conferences with someone, like I said, who's the king at it, really. So why waste your energy? Just keep quiet and let your fist do the talking, because kind of contradicting what I said before, that he hard work he has done to get there, but he has earned it. So it's up to him how we want to deal with it. But for me, I've done it in terms of packaging, and enjoyed a lot of it. For each to their own.
David, when the time comes and hopefully nothing stops the fight from happening, they do get him a ring. What are your thoughts on it? What do you actually expect to see happen? I know a lot of people, or most people, just see Tyson as a big favourite heading into it just because of what he's achieved in his career and on the back of these tremendous performances with Deontay Wilder. But what does Dillian have to do to be successful?
Dillian just has to go in and focus on his own boxing ability and his own game plan, really. He's going to have his own tactics and his own strategy instead of worrying about what Tyson Fury is going to be doing. As good as Tyson Fury was in his last fights, I think he had an incident fight against Otto Wallen, didn't he? When he got the big cut and the cut in now, but Tyson Fury's only human like the rest of us, so he can be hurt, he can be knocked out. Because like I said in the past, Deontay Wilder, on another night, a referee might have stopped the count before he even got to whatever number it was, 6, whatever, before he started getting up, because he was out. So he can be knocked out, albeit only by biggest puncher, or one of the biggest punchers in any existence. But Fury-Whyte has proved in the past that he can punch. He's got one of the best lefties in the heavyweight division. And he just needs to concentrate on doing what he can to gain the upper hand and not focusing too much on what Tyson Fury is going to do. You just don't know what Fury is going to do. Southpaw, go inside the box, he can go to have a bit of a tear up with Dillian. I can see it being a bit of a dirty fight, if I'm honest, because both fighters have got it in the bag to do that. Tyson Fury's got it down to a bit of an art. It's something that you can't really teach. He's just got that knack of being able to fight a little bit dirty on the inside, little intricate things, subtle things that you don't really get onto until you watch it again. But the meters matching that, because Dillian-Whyte's in the background, the MMA, and he's up and ready, Dillian, without a doubt. He had to go in. It's going to be interesting, but I don't think it's going to be a pure boxing match. I don't think Dillian's going to try and outbox.
What's your prediction results-wise, David? Is it one you expect to see go the distance?
Yeah, I think a Fury win on points is the safe bet. You know, Dillian can be knocked out, but also Quebec can knock Fury-Whyte out. But I think Quebec has a knack of knocking fighters out who would normally be audible. And you know, the two tough tight fighters like Carlos Takam, Walters, Manuel Charr, fighters who don't really get chinned. He had that knack because of his height and his line of vision, and he can land on the chin. Whereas Fury's quite a bit taller than Dillian Whyte, so a lot of the time you hit the top of the head and around the head instead of the actual chin. So I'd rule out a Tyson Fury KO me personally, and I think he'll just try and box clever, but Dillian will try and make it a bit rough out, and then when it does, Fury can look after himself. So I think it's a Fury good on points.
David, one final thing on it I want to get your thoughts on is we've seen that Tyson's brought in Jarrell Miller into his camp for sparring. Now, of course, Jarrell has, over the last few years, tested positive and failed tests for numerous performance-enhancing drugs. I'm sure it's something which you've seen about and you've probably got strong opinions on because obviously what's gone on with your own career with fighters against yourself. What are your thoughts on seeing Tyson bring in Jarrell Miller?
Well, obviously, Jarrell Miller shouldn't be allowed to compete again, as far as I'm concerned. You know, what he done was embarrassing him. You know, that's someone had to go to them extremes to make themselves believe that he could win a fight, or to go in and do it to win the fight, and win a fight on the strength of taking that much shit, really. So when he's like lacking no respect for him. But then from the boxing side of things, from the business at the end of the day, Tyson Fury just wants to prepare for a fight. So he wants to bring in whatever's going to bring best to prepare. At the end of the day, it's not personally Tyson Fury, so I get it. You know, I get that from a preparation point of view, but I wouldn't if Tyson Fury was given an opportunity to have a fight against him and make good money, and I disagree with that. But sparring, you know, you get in an 8 sparring partners in who might have tested positive. You just concentrate on what's going to prepare you best for the fight. But it's different when opportunities are getting given on shows. If you put them on the show, you give them a slot on that, then it'd be like that's out of order. And then with that. And obviously, you know, it's trying to clear his name and everything. But what's done is done. You know, and I'm normally quite a I won't give him an in back into boxing. But boxing,
David, away from that, just get your thoughts on another fight which we seem set to see, the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk. Obviously, there was some, well, not some, but everybody was waiting to see what would happen with Alexander with ongoing devastating war taking place in his homeland of Ukraine. And as always, our thoughts go out to the people over there. But heading into what seems like a most likely rematch now with Alexander preparing for it, just your take on that entire situation, and from a mental standpoint, how do you think Alexander will cope trying to prepare for AJ a second time around, knowing in the back of his mind what's going on back home in the Ukraine?
That's tough, isn't it? To be honest, though, I think the only time it's going to be a problem for Usyk, in my own experience, is when he's not in the gym. It's when you're not in the gym. When he's in the gym, that's his escape from reality. He's in the gym and he's in the zone, and nothing else really matters. He's not going to be getting the bags thinking of a war in Ukraine because he's conditioned to just focus on what he's doing there and then in that gym. Repetition to do what he's doing in the boxing room. But then obviously when he's had a shower and everything else and he's sat in the hotel eating his food, and it's going to be tough and it can be draining. Everyone knows if you're worrying, drains your energy. You know, your body's releasing stress hormones and everything else, and it just doesn't work well for a training camp situation. So it could work in AJ's favour that what's happening, because he will be drained mentally and physically because of what's going on. And but at the same time, he's probably gonna use it as motivation to try and lift the spirits of the people of the country by defending his heavyweight title. So he's got a lot on his shoulders. Usyk, but he's obviously such a pro and such a top fighter. He's gone, let's take the fight, let's do it, and let's do it. So it's going to be interesting. It definitely made it more interesting from a boxing standpoint, as bad as that sounds, because sports obviously secondary, but it also lifts people's morale. So you can see why he's done it.
David, what do you expect to see when the pair of them do get into the ring for a second time? Then, obviously, on the back of everything you've just said there, and even looking at it from a mental standpoint, people have raised questions over AJ's kind of own mental well-being since his defeat to Andy Ruiz, and how much of kind of an impact that fight took on him and his own kind of boxing skill set as well. What do you expect to see when this fight does come around?
I think what AJ has done in both of his defeats is he's broken them down like categorically. Like, he's gone a bit deep. He's a deep thinker by the looks of it. He's tried to find reasons why he's lost, and like micro managed it all into trying to realise where it went wrong. And sometimes, though, you can overthink these things. So he is a deep thinker. Sometimes it can be the simplest thing which can win you the fight. And for me, just going back to the original type of fighter he was, the aggression, the power. His power was unbelievable. And I had him down to win in the first fight, because once he lands, he won't let Usyk off the feet. But he tried to outbox the best stand-up boxer in possibly in the world, in any division, because why he tried to do that, I don't know. There's obviously reasons behind it. One of them possibly was that he should got his respect straight away in the first round. Hit him with a stiff jab, felt it, instead of thinking he was the cruiserweight, he was going to blast out. There's the respect. Let's box, and then before you know it, the rounds have gone and you're behind. So I don't know. I just think going back, I've said this before, going back to Tyson Fury, being able to fight 30 and just do something a little bit different to win. And I've said this before to you, Joshua's like an Olympic style boxer, textbook boxer, like I was, like most fighters are. Usyk is the textbook boxer. So unless you can bring something different to the table, Usyk can anticipate what another textbook boxer is going to do 10 times over, and he'll anticipate it quicker, and he'll deal with it easier than dealing with someone who's doing something a little bit different, a little bit unconventional. And that's why I just think unless Joshua changes something dramatically or lands a big shot, and it'd have to be a big shot and jump on him, I just can't see him. We're just beating him, trying to go again. Just can't see him.
At the end of the first fight, some people kind of raised the point that if that had gone just another 10 seconds, that Alexander might have stopped AJ. Going into this fight, do you think it's a possibility, or more of a possibility than the first fight, that we might see Alexander put his foot on the gas and potentially stop Anthony?
Possibly. I mean, if he's wanting to prove a point, but look, someone said McCracken was ready to throw the towel towards the end of the fight, and then fights like that, when you know you can outbox someone like that and you can't land a long night. It's torture, you know, and you probably would have put Joshua out of his misery if you would have stopped him because the hope had gone of even landing the shot, which was going to turn things around. But I don't think so. No, I think he'll just do the same thing again because he doesn't get tired, Usyk, and he can punch in volume. His stamina's much better than AJ's. That's what he's got in his favour, and he's constantly moving. He doesn't stand still, and if someone doesn't stand still, you can't set your feet. And if AJ can't set his feet, you can't let them big short punches that he throws, the uppercuts, the hooks. They're the ones that I thought that do the damage. But if he's just constantly stepping to the side, you know, moving his upper body from the waist and the target's never still, it's gonna be tough. But kudos to AJ for going straight after the revenge and putting it right straight away. It's the direct way to making yourself feel better straight away, but sometimes it isn't the best option. You know, sometimes you've got to go right. Well, let's look at that in a couple of fights down the line. He wants retribution straight away, and I understand that.
David, just two more things I want to quickly get your thoughts on. There's talks of a potential fight being close between Joe Joyce and Joseph-Parker. If that one's agreed and goes ahead, what's your take?
Great fight. And again, credit to both fighters, but more so to Joseph-Parker because he's just come off a great win against Derek Chisora, where, you know, again, he could send water now, and he'll get another title shot. And Joe Joyce is probably the most avoided man in the heavyweight division. And I feel a bit sorry for Joe Joyce because he's going to find it difficult to get big fights unless people are forced into a corner because of the way he fights and the style and his engine. And he looks like he can't be hurt, but everyone can. Someone will knock him out at some point. But I can see him being very, very difficult to beat. So yeah, great fight. You know, just like a bit of a throwback fight that. You know, to like the mid-90s where there was top fighters who actually were fighting for championships at that time. Who fight each other and entertain the fans, and there's always room for them types of fights. So I think it's great. I hope it happens. But I think Joyce should stop Parker. Because he's just throws too many punches and just doesn't get tired, and he's got a great chin. So it's going to take something special, but I think someone eventually
And David, just a final one. I'm sure a couple of months ago you watched the Amir Khan and Kell Brook fight. Since then, we've seen he's come out that Amir's looking to continue with his career, and obviously as he's Kell. On the Kell Brook front, a potential fight with Eusyk-AJ Jr. seems to be in the pipeline, and we've also seen kind of Ben's name mentioned. But what would be your thoughts on a catchweight fight between Brook and Eubank Jr.?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting. I'm a Eubank Jr. fan. I like watching Eubank. It's one of them you've got to watch him. I think he's exciting. You know, so I like watching him. And Kell Brook obviously was quality, and he looked fantastic against Andi. I think it's a no-brainer because obviously the promotion set up and everything else. It's the obvious fight for me. And Sky are always looking for another pay-per-view showstopper to put on, and you know their options are starting to wear a little bit thin because already went to the zone and stuff and stayed in there. But I think it's a perfect fight for everyone involved in. Yeah, I think it's superb. Yeah.
And just a final one, get your thoughts on is if one day we do see a potential Conor Benn and Eubank Jr. clash, and the next generation of that Ben Eubank name coming together, how big of a fight do you think that would be? It was previously spoken about a few months back. Would you like to see that one?
Yeah, massive fight, isn't it? Massive again. It's like what not only is it a great fight in its own right, it's also going to give people a nostalgia effect of 30 years ago when the dads met. and it's just going to get everyone interested because, you know, a lot of fellas or people who were in the 20s when their dads met, they're still around now. They're still boxing fans. They're still going to want to see it. So it might even bring back boxing fans who years ago wasn't really bothered as much with it. It's going to be massive. It'll be a stadium fight. And they're both real quality in their own rights and excitement. It's excitement what people want to see, isn't it? So with two styles like that, it could outdo what the dads do, you know. So we just need to stay on our own path and keep with it, and then it, you know,
Right, David, as always, it's a pleasure to catch up with you. I'll leave you now to crack on with your work, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. It's a pleasure to catch up as always, though. Thank you for speaking to me on Boxing Social.